Hey folks, welcome back, another Pokemon Masters video. So tonight we have the Diantha and Champion Iris rerun, right? And I thought I'd talk about that a bit, right? Obviously, Diantha and Champion Iris both are relatively older units, right? We generally know, what they do and all that stuff. But just for a refresher for those who don't know, I'll just quickly go over these two units. So Diantha Gardevoir is a special striker. Decent amount of HP, speed's not that fast, really good special attack, right? Special defense kind of sucks, physical defense is not terrible, I guess, and then after you might get more special attack and a bit more special defense, right? Although that special defense is still not that great, I don't know why they gave her more special defense. Anyways, so, in terms of moveset, right, she has Dazzling Gleam, Dire Hit Plus, Moonblast, and Time to Shine, which gives you 2 special attack and 2 special defense, and then charge your move gauge by 3 if you're Mega Gardevoir, right? Which, I mean, you don't really want to do most of the time. You either want to use it before you Mega, or just straight up not use it at all, right? If you have someone else above your special attack. So, yeah, she is missing +2 special attack, generally, right? So there's that. So, once she does Mega, well, actually, before she Megas, her Sync move, Master Thespian Moonblast, just a regular, Mega Sync move, low base power, but you Mega, right? Passive, you have Hit the Gas 5, which turns all your moves, just gives them 1 more gauge cost, right? But also makes them, 50% more powerful, right? So Moonblast turns into a 4 gauge move, but does 50%, it's just stronger, right? And then you have Propulsion. Propulsion 1, 20% chance of reducing move countdown when you use a move that is successful. And Mutually Assured is just if they status you status them back. And then after you Mega, that turns into Fairy Power 5, which gives you extra 50% boost on your Fairy type moves. So she's a pretty powerful Fairy type damage dealer, right? Being a striker and all. And in terms of her grid, nothing too interesting at 1 copy. Nothing super interesting at 2 copies either, right? I mean, you got like move gauge refresh, you got one of the move gauge refreshes. But yeah, like 1 out of 5, 2 out of 5 are not really great, and then 3 out of 5 you got like the slightly more interesting stuff like Devastation, Fleet Feet if you want that, right? Double Down, all that stuff. So you get some of your like Sync Nuke stuff at 3 out of 5. Although overall I'd say her grid's not like a huge deal, right? I don't think she's someone that you really need to go out of your way to 3 out of 5-er, right? Unless you really, really like the unit. And yeah, overall, her as a unit, she's not bad, right? She's definitely good, but we've definitely seen better units that do very similar things, right? Maybe different types, but it's these sort of like Hyper Beam units, right? 4 gauge special attack special strikers. She's definitely not the best up there, but she's okay. She's okay, right? She's probably the strongest Fairy type striker, right? But I personally don't think she's the best Fairy type damage dealer. I think that's still I still like Whimsicott a bit better, right? Just because Whimsicott does very, very good DPS as well, but also does like so much more on her nuke, on top of doing all that other great stuff for your team, like speed buffs, debuff the opponent's speed if you need that, or AoE paralysis, right? She's just much more versatile than Diantha, personally, I think, right? But hey, if you just like want Diantha, if you just like, because people like Diantha, popular character, right? Understandable, all that stuff. Plus her EX outfit looks so good, right? And then you have or if you like Gardevoir, then sure. Although to be fair, she is definitely the weakest Diantha, because the other Diantha is so much better, right? The one that's out right now, Keldeo. So if you really just want like a Diantha, I'd say go for the Keldeo one because it's just so much stronger, right? But this one is still very, very, very good, right? If you really need a Fairy type damage dealer, you could definitely try for her, right? Although again, Xerneas is free, and Xerneas is by no means a very good Fairy type damage dealer at all, but she's definitely enough to clear any Fairy Weak stages in the game, right? So yeah, Xerneas is free, but Xerneas is nowhere as powerful as Diantha is offensively, right? Obviously, Xerneas is fantastic defensively, but yeah, she's a good striker, right? I'd say way above average, but not like crazy good, right? Moving on to Hydreigon, right? Hydreigon, like, Both of these units, I'm not a huge fan of personally, right? For reasons. But for Hydreigon, she's a bit more interesting, I think, right? Really, really good attack and special attack. Not that the special attack stat matters that much, because your only special attacking move is like Snarl. So, but yeah, that's stat-wise. Speed's not terrible, but also not great either. You have stuff like Breaking Swipe and Snarl, which debuffs AoE debuffs the opponent's attack and special attack respectively, but it doubles, you have double drop on it, so every time you debuff it by 2. Although personally I'm not a huge fan of this mechanism in comparison to Kyurem's Noble Roar double drop, because with Kyurem you could get the opponent to -6 attack and special attack in 3 turns, and this has to take 6 turns. And if you're saying, well, this one's AoE, but yeah, it doesn't really matter because your tech nukes are all single target anyways, so it doesn't really matter if you AoE debuff the opponents. Like, I don't really care about debuffing the sides to -6 when they get like 2-shot anyways by regular moves. So I'm not a huge fan of this mechanic, but it is something, right? Then you have Dragon Rush, which does some decent DPS once you like fully have her set up, right? With everything, right? Well, not her grid per se, but once you get Dragon Rush like fully set up with oh, there it is, power loving and stuff, right? Although the issue is it takes a long time to set this up, right? So she's kind of like Incineroar, right? She's kind of like Incineroar, although I think I like Incineroar a bit better, just because Incineroar gives like AoE speed buffs instead of a one-time move gauge acceleration, which this is great, by the way. It gives your team move gauge acceleration, right? Buffs your attack by 2 and crit by 1. Not the best buffs, but the move gauge acceleration is very, very good, right? And your sync move over here, your typical tech nuke, and this one's the more opponent stats been lowered. Well, I guess not that typical, right? The power of the move, piercing gaze, so your Dragon Rush doesn't miss, which is nice, right? And power loving more, their stats are lower the more powers up to your moves. So in general, DPS is pretty solid, although again, it's kind of like Incineroar where you don't really get to use it because it takes forever to build up. And then your sync nuke is pretty powerful as well, right? And then you also give your this is just like this is just like Incineroar, but Dragon type basically. In terms of like the grid, if you are trying to go for how many copies you want, right? She has nothing at 1 out of 5, nothing at 2 out of 5, right? And she gets most of her stuff at 3 out of 5. Devastation, another sync nuke multiplier, and Pecking Order, another sync nuke multiplier over here, right? So most of your stuff is at 3 out of 5, right? So it's mostly 3 out of 5 or bust, because 1 out of 5 Hydreigon is not that good. Right, because 1 out of 5 you only have the innate sync nuke multiplier, so like her sync nuke is not even that great at 1 out of 5. She gets her sync nuke gets really, really good at 3 out of 5 because you have 2 sync nuke multipliers for her. There's like 2 more multipliers, right? So that's when it like really becomes great. So she is kind of 3 out of 5 or bust. Whether you want to candy that or whatever, it's up to you, right? Depending on your resources. So in terms of like this banner, right? I'm assuming it's going to be a split 1.5% each. Right, hopefully it's 1.5% each and not 1% each. But if it is 1.5% each, if that's the case, and like if you're someone who wants both, or doesn't mind getting either one of them, this is a great banner to summon on, just because you have a combined rate of 3%, which is pretty high, right? But if you only want one and don't want the other, obviously this is not a banner you want to summon on. You want to summon on the solo 2% banners. But overall, in terms of like, do you really need these units? I'm saying no. Right, generally. Again, Diantha, good damage dealer, favorite type damage dealer, but in general, I don't find her as useful as something like, again, a Whimsicott or a Grimmsnarl, right? Even though both of them, DPS-wise, are not as good as Diantha, but they do like so many other things that I think are just in general just more useful than Gardevoir, right? And then as for Hydreigon, this is definitely something that is like overkill that you don't really need, right? Again, it's kind of like a dragon type Incineroar in that sense, which again, Incineroar is great, right? And Hydreigon's great as well. But it is dragon type, and there's like a billion fantastic free-to-play Dragon-type units, right? There's Zinnia and Salamence, which is great. Zinnia and Rayquaza is great, right? Like, there's just a lot of really, really great free Dragon-type units, or non-free, you know. There's Singsu Leon's not bad, right? Lance Dragonite's not bad. There's just a lot of like really, really good other Dragon types out there. So if you don't have any, then sure, go for Hydreigon. Hydreigon's fantastic, right? But otherwise, I don't really think this is like something like very, very, very much necessary, right? So yeah, I'd probably be either saving gens for the upcoming special costume Jasmine, or spending it on the other Diantha right now. Or if you like any of the other two, you can go for those as well. But I do think those two are generally better. But yeah, these again, two good units, but also definitely replaceable and not something that like super necessary, right? So yeah, unless you really want Champion Iris and Diantha, if you're just a huge fan of those characters, you really like their Pokemon, then you could definitely go for it, right? Because as much as like Diantha and Keldeo is you know, better as a unit, right? Diantha plus Gardevoir is always classic and very iconic, so you know, it makes sense if you want to go for that. So anyways, that's from this one. I guess hope you all enjoyed. Guys, think in the comments down below, like this video, subscribe to the channel for some more fun content. Again, I will be streaming some of the fighting type here. Actually, I haven't grinded at all. Yesterday I just playing 3 houses, unfortunately. So we'll have a live stream up for that soon. I'm aiming maybe at 3 p.m. PST. I think it's PST now. So stay for that if you guys want to, you know, join in and have some fun. And I'll see you guys in the next one then.